BBC Radio Northampton.
So let's have a talk about this active travel then, because you will know that since the pandemic began, there's been, a real focus actually on encouraging us to look at other ways of travelling around rather than using cars or public transport. Now, at the moment, in Northampton, Corby, Kettering and Wellingborough, we've got that special local guidance anyway, encouraging us to avoid car sharing or using public transport. So what is the money being used for? The Department for Transport allocated £351,000 to Northamptonshire County Council to help the authority encourage walking and cycling. Councillor Jason Smithers is responsible for highways at Northamptonshire County Council. Morning, Jason.
Morning, Annabel.
So you got this money, a few months ago now, didn't you? So what exactly have you done so far?
Yeah, so the 351 was the tranche one of the funding that was given to us by the Department for Transport to offer sort of COVID-secure type areas around our towns and around Northamptonshire. So, you'll see schemes in Northampton where we've widened footpaths, the same in Kettering, just so it enables people to social distance. It's important that people keep their distance. And, so, there's quite a few schemes that have gone ahead. We've made cycle lanes, in Northampton that go down the Weedham Road into the town. There's a massive area there that people can cycle down. We've got a couple of pop-up lanes that have been put in place. We've got more social distancing areas in St Giles Street in Northampton, Silver Street in Kettering, where we're just widening the footpaths to allow people to come by. So if I could explain, tranche one was really about developing these sort of quick win solutions. Tranche two, which is based more around long-term sort of results and outcomes for the county, which is the 1.4 million. And we have put our bid into the Department of Transport to get the funding for that. It's worth noting, though, that obviously on tranche one that we got the full allocation when other authorities actually didn't. So we were quite aligned with the Department for Transport on our schemes and plans. So, it indicates that they liked what we were putting forward and, we're pleased. And, anything that gets people out of their cars and onto their feet or onto their push bike is an absolute win-win all round, because physical activity directly contributes to inactivity, should I say, directly contributes to 1 in 6 deaths in the UK. And it costs just over £7 billion a year to businesses and the wider society as well. So it's great to do it.
Yeah, and I think most people will appreciate, the benefits of it. But, if I were being harsh, Jason, you say you've done these pop-up cycle lanes. You've just increased the bus lane, haven't you? And in terms of doing stuff on pavements, you've just widened a couple of pavements. That's not really going to get lots more people biking to work, is it?
I disagree, Annabel. I mean, the plan that we've done down on the Weedham Road there in Northampton is bold and ambitious. We've opened up a complete bus lane for cyclists can go in there. It's enforced 24/7, so it is solely for cyclists. So it is a very difficult thing to do. We have limited space in the county to do these plans, so we are trying the absolute best we can to sort of develop out sort of active travel plans with trying to keep everything, flowing with traffic as well. So, and there's so many rules and regulations around the size of roads and how much, space we can allocate to the active travel plans. But, we are doing what we can do and our plans are bold, and we are pushing forward with, some great ideas in the tranche two, which I'm confident we should get the funding for, which will be a direct indication of our ability to sort of do these schemes, and government sort of nod to say, well done, thank you.
Well, I mentioned earlier on, I don't bike to work, so I'm perhaps not the best person, but let's quickly just speak to someone who does, because we're getting quite a few comments on this. Samuel Shoesmith, you're in Wellingborough, aren't you? Morning.
Annabel, hello, good morning.
So you're listening to Jason here. He says what they're doing is bold and ambitious. What would you agree? What would you like to see happen?
Annabel, I'd like to cry. This is not bold and ambitious. This is not doing the best that they can do for the county. There is not limited space. It's very clear. The government guidance was very clear. This needs to be about road reallocation. This needed to be about moving the modal share by stopping people transporting themselves in their car. We need to encourage walking, encourage cycling. I was just told a moment ago, we were just told that the plans were bold and ambitious. They are not bold and ambitious enough. I am a real fan of active travel. I cycle to work every day. I work for the NHS. And there needs to be a massive change to get more people doing it. So I just want to I'm just going to briefly say about the barriers. Why were the barriers popped in? But there was no communication with anyone. So they were popped in, and there were just a solid line of barriers that members of the public had to make gaps between them for people to cross. And
what do you mean about barriers? Sorry, explain.
So the barriers were popped in. So Montague Street was the first one where they were popped in. The barriers were popped along, and there were just one continuous line of barriers. And then if people wanted to cross over to use the shops, they couldn't get across because of the continuous line of barriers. So some member of the public moved them. The council put them back, and it was a sort of a to and fro in, which was ridiculous. The lack of communication for that scheme and for anything else is terrible. School streets, Annabel, in 2 weeks' time, our children are going back to school. The government have made it so clear that there needs to be a focus on how they can get to school. They need to walk and cycle now. Are you familiar with school streets, Annabel?
No.
So school streets, essentially, you close the road to through motor traffic just outside of school. So near my house, I've got two schools that close. So Wilby Primary School and St Barnabas School, very close to my house, and they are walking distance. And people should be able to walk and safely get there or cycle there, or if they needed to travel by car, park away and walk the final distance. It stops cars getting right outside schools. One, fantastic for air pollution. Two, for encouraging people to walk and cycle to school.
Well,
so this is it in 2 weeks' time, and the council are not moving quick enough. Annabel, I really, really hope there'll be massive change and better communication.
Let's put some of these points to Jason Smithers then, who's still listening. We'll come on to school streets in a moment, but I have to say a lot of people are saying that it is far from bold and ambitious. Your defence, Jason?
Well, again, people have their own opinions of what's bold and what's ambitious, and I think I live this every day with the team at the county council, and I have to say I do feel it's bold and ambitious, and that's been reflected in us getting 100% of the grant from government where other authorities didn't. I take up the points that Mr. Shoesmith made regards the barriers in Montague Street. This was one of our first schemes that we delivered. And I will be the first to put my hands up and say it was hastily put in, and we were just eager to get it in. And I think we learned from that quite quickly that the communication needed to be better between the borough councils and the district councils and the county council, which, of course, there's officer representation on the active travel board from the boroughs and districts, which has helped towards getting the messages out there, towards the public. And so I take on board that criticism.
And the school streets?
School streets, that's something that's coming. I believe we have a school street scheme that will be launched in Wellingborough soon. And I think that will be a great asset to that area.
And if successful, you'll do more?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't we? I mean, we're here to promote the active travel thing. As I've already said, there is some key messages around active travel and what we call the wonder drug of physical activity. And people, need to change how they, travel around the county, how they get to school, how they get to work. And if they hop onto a bike, it's good for the environment. It's good for their well-being. And it's a win-win all round. So, we are keen to push on that.
And just one final point then, because another text has come in. Mick says he cycles. He says, can you ask Jason what they're doing in the east, as I see no change? So Thrapston, Rushden, all around there. Are you doing stuff there? Yeah,
so there is some schemes that are going to be developed out in the east of the county. And again, we will communicate those once they've been looked over and communicated with the various boroughs. Districts that are responsible in that area, they will be communicated out through social media channels so the public will get to hear about those. But again, it is about being bold and ambitious, and that's something we are trying our absolute best at the County Council to do. And once we get tranche 2, the 1.4 million, we've got 4 schemes already lined up for what we'd call a long-term outcome where, these won't be temporary measures. They will be something that will increase the cycling capacity across the county and start linking up cycle paths as well, which is where we want to be. So you can get from one part of the county to the other on a push bike.
Jason, thank you very much for coming on. Thanks for taking the time. Councillor Jason Smithers then, responsible for highways. Lots of people getting in touch about that. I know that lots of people have got points to make. We'll go through all of those.